So, in so many words, what I'm trying to say is whereby force is applied in order to attain or to obtain somebody's submission to you, whichever format you may say it, trying to ask for somebody's attention, or trying to ask for somebody to do something that your wishes are, or get somebody to fulfill your wishes. You do it through force, or through means of punishment, through means of all those devices. You are doing it not necessarily in a sense of which demonstrate that you have the authority, a natural or a flexible, or let's say an easy access to that person, and it requires for you to use force to get it done, also means of threats, whichever way to get it done. But if you do have easy access, you are connected to the person, you have authority in a sense of that access, that free access to that person. The willingness of the person to obey you is something which is connected to you. It is natural. The person does it willingly, with no force, no stress at all. But in this sense of presentation of the Gospels and let's say the Quran or any other force, the Spirit is demanding it through force. And sometimes this words is also coming not necessarily to demonstrate that he has to do it through force in terms of the definition of the God of Allah, Jehovah, being presented. Now, it could be the test error, when people are being put into a state where they are reciting something from a divine God and all that. The possibility that they might do, be saying things which are not necessarily coming from the Almighty God, who can speak. That is the most. This is the most play. This is the most critical side of the whole story that makes you doubt, or that makes me doubt, because the God we talk of, the God being demonstrated by the Islamic people and by the Christian, can't talk. He can talk. So then, why does it require you or me to keep into that pattern of trying to sort of do things as if he cannot talk? And he says he's inspiring you to say words to other people. He can talk himself. Why would he go through that secrecy, or that moment of trying to be silent and allowing you to talk? And your linguistic role that you are playing, you obviously do not even have the mouth to speak in the perfected way that he should speak, or he is expected of him to speak. And that is so clear, it's obvious, isn't it? Because if the words that have come with this book are perfect words, that's fine. But somehow people have managed to, leaders or those who took it up, has managed to convince people that the words are very mystical, are very unique. The words are very wise sayings, only because they can't straightforward understand the statement. They have been the words and statement have been put in such a way that they are so much of a different sounding. Because if I was reading the Quran, you can see how I struggle to read sometimes, and you see the English that I had to put forth in the book. You're not really joining in together. It's like at that time they have a different format of speaking or understanding. Even today we all know that they are some among the elites, to say those who call themselves gentlemen and ladies, that their format of speaking slightly becomes very different. Even though it might be English speaking, they slightly have their way of going about it that may sound like they are should I say, they are more they be considered as people who have other class, or a different class from the rest of the other people. They are people who have that kind of they used to even teach people how to speak like a gentleman, or how to speak like a lady. People were trying to speak that kind of way, But in this regard, we don't need that kind of, But that's the Bible has a presentation of its own tone of language or tone of words that has been put out there in terms of how the translation are made or how people have to read it. Thou shalt not, and there are so many things that really doesn't come out as fluent, as easy as you would have expected to come out, so you can really pronounce it. So the language is slightly a bit awkward, but the awkwardness of it has been seen as something unique, something that symbolizes something great, But we are deducing it down, and we are deducing it to all of a level, and we are saying that, okay, this is the meaning of it. Then we make logic of it, and we see whether the logic really makes sense or can really breathe us into the right path. Anyway, we keep on the path of trying to get deeper and deeper into what salvation really can be. So I'll touch on it more and more. We've touched on the salvation to some extent, but further on also I would like to elaborate a bit on the other side, of which practically the man is taking his life. His life has been taken according to the Gospels, that he was meant to die. So he went to the cross. So prophecies spoke of his death. Now I have a different version of understanding of what the prophecies might mean. I see prophecy in some ways, words that are making suggestions of what the future will be, and the insight of what the meaning or what it might be related to. Now, I relate most of the prophecies of Jesus as being something that he was saying that will take place. So it could signify that the people, if let's, for instance, they say Jesus Christ will be called the Alpha and Omega. He will be called the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, Emmanuel. He will be the God, he will reign, he will be that. All those words have been given to him, which people today will look at and say he is God because of those things being said. I would think of it in a different way, which I feel that would be more appropriate. Like if Jesus Christ being God is because people will declare him as God, not necessarily that he is God. But people declare people to be anything. People are making saints today. The Pope, previous Pope who was there before this, has been made a saint recently, been lifted up. It's like a culture the Romans have to do. So the fact that Jesus Christ is named as being that does not necessarily mean that God ordained him and say he's God. God will not make anybody be God over him. But the thing is that it's a prophecy. So interpretations are not straightforward. So people will come up with their interpretation. But I will expect the interpretation to tally, just as they will expect that their interpretation that they have is tallying or should tally with the entire storyline. But I feel that from what I reviewed to look at carefully, that the best way that can tally is seeing that somehow he was not meant, or was never told by God that he's going to. It doesn't. The words, the prophecy does not mean that he must necessarily die, or God was lifting him up and claiming that he is going to be God. But he was telling what people's reactions will be as a result of what he was coming to do or what he represents. He will come in and people will start making him God, and he will reign over a man's life or a man's soul for 1,000 years. And we've been 2,000 years now, which his death took place, and he's reigning by the hearts of many people, until the time when, that throne will be taken off from him, and he will be guiding people's life, all that, not necessarily him, but in words, in terms of his inspirational words. We also know that we haven't got the entire inspirational words. What we've got is what we've got. We've done all. So if it was meant for him to guide people and truthfully from an almighty God, a source of life, his words would have been preserved. Nothing would be able to temper with his words that is meant to guide generations and generations to come. And he shouldn't have died. That is what I think. Because from his response, if these responses are true, then he shouldn't have died. He probably was a military commander and not necessarily